Newton is suing costume designer Robert Estrada for a deposit, lost wages, and a superhero costume.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2162, Newton versus Estrada.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Newton, you retained the services of Mr. Estrada to make you a costume.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was, according to your complaint, you make a living as an influencer?
Yes, ma'am. I produce
Okay.
content.
Now, Sarah has actually tried to explain that to me, what that is. And I think the kindergarten version of what she told me, you are on the internet, and your idea is to get as many people to follow the things that you do in your life as possible. And you post on the internet.
What is your
your pictures doing whatever you're doing. And then when you have enough people, advertisers, people who make products, pay you to tout their products one way or another. And that's how you make a living.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
No problem. Anytime.
Okay. So you don't produce anything. You just being you.
Well, no, but I do own 3 companies, and one of them is a social media advertising company. So
Okay.
it's important to meet and mingle with as many people as possible.
I get that, but it's all to support your primary function.
Yes, ma'am.
As we had a case years and years ago. It was one of my favorites. It was a guy who was being supported by a woman. And quite frankly, I couldn't see what this perfectly delightful, productive woman, what she saw in this guy. But I said, she gives you this, she pays your rent, she pays for your food. What does she get in return? And I'll never forget his answer. He said, she gets a me. So I don't know why that came to mind when you're talking about being an influencer. What do you, how does that happen? Anyway, you asked Mr. Estrada to do a costume for you. You like to go to events. I don't have to hear all about it. I sort of understand it a little bit now. You contracted with him to make this costume for you for $1,000. You paid him a $500 deposit. He delivered the costume, albeit he delivered it a little late, but you accepted it, and then you didn't pay him for it because you say it was not made well.
Yes.
And you have the costume now.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. In addition to the costume, you gave him another costume that you wanted him to just put another applique on of something. It was a relatively minor thing.
Glue something.
Whatever. You asked him to do something. It was work. He's not your brother, uncle, father. You're not related to him. That's his business. And when you refused to pay him the balance of the costume that he made for you, he has the other costume, and he says, when you pay me, you can get your costume back. Am I clear?
Yes, but we have talked about creating multiple different costumes in the future, and every single time there was a dollar amount mentioned. This was never discussed.
Okay.
You discuss it prior, but that was never discussed.
Well, that's true. And whose fault is that?
It was never brought up. But
No. Whose fault is that?
I assume.
No, just a second. If the complaint about the costume that he was just supposed to put an applique on of some sort of a creature, a spider or something, if you gave it to him, and this is his business, then you say, how much is it? So I'm just letting you foment that in your head, sir. When did you order this costume from him for $1,000?
August 7th.
And he delivered it in October.
October 8th, I believe.
And what was wrong with it?
Many, many things.
Just say you have it with you.
I have every single bit of the costume with me.
I'd like to see it.
You like one piece at a time?
No, just a second. That's a boot. What else?
This glove.
Just a second, that's a glove.
Yes.
Okay.
And he actually has plenty of pictures that he sent me in the chat that he was actually making the glove himself. This comes from a costume store from the main movie that this comes from.
Okay,
and it came out in 2005. He sold me a glove that was almost 20 years old, and he said he was making me one.
Okay, keep going.
And this belt right here, I only tried it on once to see how everything fit, and by the time I tried to take the belt off and on, it broke between 20 minutes of use in the house, just testing it out in the mirror.
I just want to see that. I see boots, I see a glove.
Right there.
Looks perfectly normal to me. And that's put on with Velcro.
Yes.
No big deal. You put on another piece of belt. That's a substantial belt. Put it back. What's your next complaint?
Well, number one, not only did
Just a second. I don't want to see the glove anymore. I saw the glove. I saw the boot. I saw the belt.
Well,
Where's the rest of the costume?
Here's the other boot.
Just a second. Hey, where's the rest of the costume?
We don't have a mannequin or something we could put
What?
this on? We don't have a mannequin or something we could put this on?
We could put it on him. Put it on him. Ask him to put it on. I want to see what's wrong with it. It's a costume.
Newton claims costume designer Robert Estrada sent him a poorly made superhero costume. Robert is countersuing for the balance owed on the costume.
Okay, now, would you do me a favor? Just put the belt on. I know that you can't use the Velcro because a piece of the Velcro came off. Put the belt around. I just want to see how the belt's supposed to go.
For the record, it doesn't go like
Just
this.
a second. I didn't ask you anything. I just said put it on. No, you have.
It's actually really difficult with this robe on.
Now turn around. Oh, okay. Very good. Now you can take all the show and tell away, and you can take it off.
Your Honor, if I could say something.
You don't have to say anything. I've seen the costume for which he wanted to charge you $1,000.
Well, there's still more.
Yeah, but you don't want to put that on now, because
No,
you
it's
don't
not,
have to
it's
put
not
that on
something
again.
you have to put on. We're looking at the seamanship. This should be one continuous piece.
Mr. Newton, get a life. Get a life. Get rid of that stuff. Put it over there on that chair. This is not a $25,000 costume. It's a $1,000 costume. If you go into a store to buy any costume, without boots, without leather glove, it's a couple of $100. Not made. And if you don't like the way it was made, don't use the services again. According to what I read, you have lots of costumes.
I have two. The one there and the one that he brought of my possession.
Oh, okay, so you just have two costumes.
Yeah.
Great, now you have two. Now you pay him $500 for the costume that he made for you. That's the balance that you owe him for the costume. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the...
I'm not accepting the costume because it's
Just a
not
second.
up to my...
That's why you're in court, sir. I don't care whether you like it or not. Don't use his services again. He made it, you bought it. Based upon my view of that, it may not be perfect.
I paid for it to be perfect. That's
Just a
the reason
second.
why I bought
Just
it.
a second. I like a lot of things perfect, sir.
There's a
Life
reason
is
why I
not
bought it.
life is not perfect. You're going to pay him for the costume.
I paid for
No,
perfection.
you're going to pay him for the costume. That's it. That's why you're here, for me to make a judgment. If I looked at this thing and didn't think that, for instance, when you sent him those boots, were the soles falling off the boots?
No, there will not.
I didn't think so. That's for my benefit. He's going to pay you the $500 that he owes you for the costume.
The belt wasn't.
And then he bought it.
The belt wasn't falling apart either, but one use, and within 20 minutes of trying it on, and voila.
Just a second, Mr. Newton. I'm done with that. I'm on to the next gig. I'm on to your other costume that he was supposed to put an applique on. You have that costume?
I do.
Very good. Now, I want to tell you something. He didn't send those boots with soles off.
They don't fall off by
Just
themselves.
a second. No, they don't fall off by themselves.
And I didn't wear it anywhere.
I don't care whether you wore it anywhere, and I know they don't fall off by themselves, and he didn't send them that way. So you figure out, let the people out here figure out what's in my head, how the soles came off both of those shoes.
You can tell me why one piece of the costume has a bigger arm than the other.
Listen to me. I'm not hearing you anymore.
I don't think you're being very fair.
Listen.
Just to be
They
frank.
said it-
I'm a big fan of you, but I don't think you're very fair right now.
It's not a popularity contest, sir. You bought something. I bought many
also
things.
principle involved,
This is not.
which is
this
why
is
I
not.
decided to
This
take
is
this to
not.
court.
This is not.
Principle.
You're out. You're gone. Goodbye. Your case is dismissed. Do you want your costume back?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. How much was it to put the applique on it?
It was $100.
$100. Very good. Judgment on the counterclaim, $600. He gets the costume back.
Yes.
You understand? We're done.
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
I paid a pretty penny for something that was just fabric and boots.
I tried to explain how the costume works, and unfortunately, he didn't really listen. He doesn't listen.
It's one of my favorite things of all time. I've always wanted it.
Well, I gave him what he wanted, but when I delivered it, he actually didn't take the time to hear me tell him how the suit goes on.
So what do you think the likelihood is that the defendant shipped those boots with the soles the way we saw them in court today?
0.
I totally agree. I think that the plaintiff thought it would help his case to have a little bit more destroyed of a costume than
Drama.
maybe it was, and doesn't look good for him.
Actually, I thought that what was sent, the boots were substantial. There's no question that he dislodged the soles from them before he came here. The belt was a really substantial belt. What he was complaining about was a piece of Velcro.
And it's a costume belt. Velcro comes off. The clasp
Yeah, and you
come
put it back
undone.
on.
You just
Put
super glue it back
yeah,
on.
Absolutely right. There was clearly $1,000 worth of work that went into that costume and putting it together with the boots and the belt and the glove. It was really sort of outrageous that he didn't pay it. Anyway, made my life easy, besides the fact that he was a nudnik.
Is suing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, for rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2109, Noble versus Acuna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Noble, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
Many.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
And you have kids. How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters,
How old are they?
18, 15, and almost 12.
And you?
I have 3 children, and they are 10, 5, and 2.
There came a time when, that was in August of 2021, according to your complaint, that you were having some housing difficulties with your children.
No, that's not true.
Well, Miss Noble, what led you to believe that your sister was having some housing difficulty? Because you start your complaint by indicating that she was about to become homeless.
Her house that she was living in was being put up for sale.
So the house that you had been renting,
Correct.
for how long?
About 2 years. I'm not really sure. It was well
Was
over
being
a year.
sold.
Well, I didn't know that until I gave her my notice after I'd already previously asked my sister if we should move in.
So you approached her about you moving in with her.
Yes, correct.
And do you own your own home, Miss Noble?
I do.
Where you were living there alone with your 3 children.
Yes.
Okay, and how much rent were you paying?
$750.
Now, when you decided to move in with your sister, what rent was discussed?
Well, she had told me about $400 is what she wanted.
Okay, so she said the rent was $400 per month, and that was starting August 1st?
Right.
So this is what part of this case is about. Part of the case is about rent. You lived with your sister from August 1st, 2021, to a date in 2022 when you finally removed all of your property.
Kind of. I did not remove all of my property, but I removed what she allowed me to.
To remove on what date?
I'm going to say it was mid-May, but I'm not sure.
May of 2022. So we have August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So between 9 and 10 months. For the 9 or 10 months that you were there, how many times did you pay her $400 in rent? She's going to have a list.
I have a list too of our.
And you have a list. So why don't you take a look at it and give me the exact number of months?
The time I paid her $400 was, I think, only one time. And there was other times I paid her different amounts, but our agreement was because I bought all the groceries, we just kept track on this app, which has a list. I paid way over $400 in total.
Well,
So our agreement had changed.
just a second.
Okay.
You have an app, 10 months. How much did you spend on that app?
12,000 something. It's right in here on the list.
Take a look, because you're going to show it to me.
I paid total $10,411.
Okay, and she?
She total was $11,291.
And that was to cover groceries, food, gas money.
Her phone was under mine.
This is something that I'm going to have to simplify. There came a time when there were issues with regard to you not paying her $400 a month rent, and you discussed it with her, correct? And in what month was that?
April.
It was before April. It was before I had gone on vacation.
What month and year?
December of 2021.
So what I'm reading in December of 2021, you had a dispute about how much you were spending, how much you weren't spending, and that $400 was not being forthcoming just for rent. You see, I can understand that the two of you decided to split bills, everything other than the $400 in rent. You each have 3 children. You're 2 adults. Let's get to December. Was it the beginning or middle of December that you had this discussion about just pay $400 a month and we'll deal with it?
Maybe the middle.
Okay. So we have January, February, March, April, and you moved out in May.
Correct. I was kicked out illegally. Yes.
In May.
Yep.
Left in May. So that's 5 months. It was suggested by your landlord that just give me $400 a month and we'll split groceries.
In April, I have the proof of the text.
Just a second. So we have January, February, March, and April. 4 months. Did you give her $400 a month for those 4 months?
Nope, it was never discussed before. Then I have the proof that it was discussed in April.
I'd like to see it.
Thank you.
It was discussed in April again.
Okay, just a second. I just want to see the proof. Well, show me if you have proof of an earlier conversation.
I don't.
Believe that there was an earlier conversation. Let me see the one that occurred in April.
It was mainly the receipts.
I'm not getting involved with that at all. Right now, you had a place to live with your 3 children for much less than the $750 a month that you were paying at another residence.
Right. And I spent way more on groceries. I did all the groceries.
Whatever. Your children didn't eat more.
Right. And my children
Okay.
didn't live there the full time.
I don't care.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I look on my phone? It might be faster. Is that okay if I show you
Go
the
ahead.
text?
I don't care where you
Okay.
show it to me. Just show it to me.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So, I apologize. Okay, apologize. Sorry. On April 24th. So if you want, and then you can scroll down because she kind of keeps for a couple days.
Oh, that wasn't an agreement, madam. These were final acts of desperation to get you to pay $400 a month. Here.
That was the first time I'd heard, about her.
Oh, no. That wasn't the first time you heard about it.
Right.
Because the first line is $400 better be under my door.
Right.
So that's
Right.
not the first time you heard about it.
Right.
That's an act of desperation. Okay, so you had this conversation with her in December, and she was there until May. And according to you, you only paid $400 once. That's $2,000. By the way, how are your children supported?
I work. Well, I work, yes.
Is that a full-time job or a part-time job?
It was part-time.
Well, you don't support yourself and your 3 children with a part-time job. Do you get any child support for them?
I did get child support for 2 of them, yes.
For 2 of them? Mm-hmm. How much child support do you receive?
$300
$300 a what?
a month.
Do you get any other assistance?
Yes, I had food stamps.
Do you still have food stamps?
Yes.
How much a month?
For something, I'm not exactly sure.
And when you bought food for the household, you used the food stamps as well as your other money from your part-time job, and got it,
Sometimes, yeah.
$400. So far, you owe your sister $2,000. That's for back rent. Now, you want to go through the damages that you allege that your sister caused?
Yes. So I had 2 couches, and those went away.
What do you mean both went away? What does that mean?
She got rid of them.
While she was living there? And you knew about it? In what month?
It was when I came back from vacation. My things were gone.
I'm not following. You were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, according to her. You
No,
were
I was
for a
gone
little
for
more
3
than
and a half weeks.
You were gone for almost a month. She was babysitting for your children.
They don't really need babysat. They're older.
Well, your 12-year-old can't live by herself without a mother for a month.
No.
Okay, and your 18-year-old does what?
She works at a hotel.
So she works during the day or at night?
She didn't at the time. She was at 17 at the time.
You're not going to leave a 17, a 14, and an 11-year-old alone for a month.
Of course not.
Okay, so they were home with your sister.
Yes.
Let's get back to the initial question. I forgot what my question was before I went off on this tangent. Couches.
The couches.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
So you went away for a month, and when you came back, couches were gone.
Couches,
No,
like
just
the
a
whole house had transformed into basically her house.
I don't care, basically her house. I want to know what was missing.
So the couches were missing.
Okay, which couches? Couches from where to where?
So the couch from the living room, it was a sectional, and the couch from the basement.
Living room and basement. What happened to those couches?
Oh, they were gone a long time before, and I can prove you a text of her saying that they were gone before I even moved in, actually in August. She knew, and her daughter and her boyfriend helped me load them up and take them to the dump. She, in fact, told me she was getting rid of a lot of old furniture she did not care about. I have pictures.
Just a second. What you have is proof that those 2 items were disposed of before she went away on vacation.
Way before I moved in.
Okay. Now, Miss Noble, Your sister says that she has proof that those 2 couches were disposed of well before you went away on vacation. If she does, I'm not going to be happy with you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation?
I can't recall, but I believe she wanted to make room for her furniture.
Just a second. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation for a month?
I know the basement couch wasn't.
Okay. I think you're full of baloney.
She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware.
Lucinda Noble claims her sister, Tiffany Acuna, owes for rent and property damage. Tiffany is countersuing for an illegal lockout and filing a false CPS report.
Okay, let's go. Property taken without permission. What property did she take without your permission?
Okay, so
How far she owes you for rent?
the TV stand, she broke it and threw it under the trampoline.
What's next?
The weed trimmer, she took that. She started giving my niece my belongings while I was gone. She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, she owes you for rent. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware. So far, she owes you $2,000 for rent.
Okay, and then there was also the wall damage, the windows, the blinds,
just a second. Just a second. What wall damage and where?
The wall damage is from the room that she was staying in and the room that her boys were staying in.
May I see the damage that you're referring to?
Here's the one more of that, and then here's the blinds. And this was damages from her cat.
Well, this I can't see at all. Okay, so that I can't see at all. And if you're talking about nail holes, I'm not interested in nail holes where there were pictures, cutting them up. I don't know what this is a picture of. Tell me.
That's where her cat clawed up the carpet to get into her room.
Did you replace the carpet?
Not yet.
Do you have an estimate for replacing or patching that carpet?
They don't make that carpet anymore.
Okay, I don't know that. How did these blinds get broken?
I'm not sure. Are those the ones that were in my bedroom or the kids' bedroom? I really don't know, to be honest. But I do feel like I remember them being broken, but I just don't remember if they were broken when I already moved in or not. I really don't know, ma'am. I mean, honestly, I knew they were broken. It's like I'm remembering, but the house, like I said, was not in a good condition when I moved in.
Okay, I'm not talking about the rest of the house.
My daughter is actually, Tiffany told her that she knew they were.
She doesn't remember. You tell me that these blinds were in good condition before she and her family moved in.
Yes.
If she says she doesn't remember, I have to rely on what you say to me, because that's not ordinary wear and tear.
No.
Do you have a bill for new blinds?
From Lowe's, I have the estimate of what it will cost to replace them.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You do have a cat?
Yes, I have one cat.
Okay.
She has multiple.
So we're talking about $47.98.
Times 2.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
For 2 blinds.
I only see one.
No, those are 2 different windows.
Oh, times 2. You're right. Anything else?
I have to remove the junk that she left at my house.
I was not allowed at her house.
What else?
That's
Okay. If you have to think that hard, then we're finished. We're moving over to the countersuit.
Okay.
Counterclaim is for an illegal lockout. Okay, let me run through this illegal lockout and dispose of it quickly. The illegal lockout that you're referring to happened when your sister, who shouldn't have, took the door off your bedroom.
Correct.
She says she took the door off your bedroom because you weren't paying close enough attention to your children.
Correct.
And I assume she's talking about the 2-year-old.
Correct.
And when she took the door off your bedroom, you called the police.
Right, yep. I called the police. I have the incident
Yup is
report.
yes. You called the police, and the police came, and when the police came on, do we have the date?
26
20
April.
The
Correct.
police arrived, and they told her she couldn't lock the door, and you were let in.
Correct.
Okay, so not egregious enough for me to have to deal with, two sisters fighting. But the other part of your claim is that your sister filed a false CPS report.
Right.
And first, how do you know a CPS report was called in?
Well, they called me. Really quick.
Child Protective Services.
Right, they did call me, but first I actually had the phone call from my sister, my witness, who is here right now, because she had pre-warned me because she had gotten the phone call from this sister saying, Lucy is going to call on you.
Okay. Do you want to step up?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
My name's Stephanie Aslett. I'm the older sister from these two. Yeah.
When did you have a conversation with Miss Noble about the defendant's children?
The same night that the cops were called. Tiffany had called me because Lucy's daughter had crawled through the window and opened the door.
So you spoke to Lucinda
Yes.
on April 26th.
Yes.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She had called me because she wanted to let me know that the cops had been
Do you
called.
recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me about the conversation.
She called to let me know that she was letting me know that since I was the only one probably capable or in this position to take on a child, if CPS was involved, because the 2-year-old would not be able to go to his father. He was in prison at the time. And I was like, why are you calling and telling me this? Tiffany's a good mom. What's going on? And she goes, no, she's not. I've already called CPS and forewarned them that this is happening. She needs to be taken care of.
What's happening?
Apparently there was lice on her daughter when she was at her father's house, and the 2-year-old, apparently he was running around with a wet diaper.
Who was taken to their father's house?
The daughter that had the lice was,
The daughter was the 5-year-old?
Yes. And
Okay, not the
lice
2-year-old.
Yeah, she supposedly had lice while she was at her dad's.
Went to her father's, and that was sometime in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And got head lice.
Well, he had told me, I wasn't for sure, but I'd let my sister know just in case that she may have lice. Let's check the girls.
Okay, and your sister was home at the time?
Well, no, she was never home. Everything was over text message.
Just a second, was that when she was away?
She was not staying at the house. She was not at the residence. She was staying at her boyfriend's house that was there.
Lucinda was staying at her
Yes.
boyfriend's house?
Yes.
Okay, and that's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that after the police were called?
That was prior to, supposedly the lice was prior to, and that's why she had called them prior to that night. And she was letting me know that she had called them and that I needed to be prepared to take on a 2-year-old.
What did you tell her?
I asked her why she would call them, what was going on, and I said, this is ridiculous. You know that this is ridiculous? And she goes, no, it's justified. And I said, I don't understand.
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, she tried to tell me that.
Well, tell me exactly what she said to you. Why is this
She made
justified?
the comment that
so she called
Tiffany has
you.
not been there.
Okay, you had to ask
My
her
words
why.
to her were, how do you know this when you're never there?
And she said?
I just know.
And gave you no more specifics?
No.
Okay, you want to tell me about that conversation?
I never said I was calling CPS. I said someone will. I know the person who did. It wasn't me.
Okay, well.
But I knew it was going to be happening.
Okay, Stephanie, let's get clear, okay? When you spoke to Lucinda and she said to you, in effect, are you prepared to take on a 2-year-old? Did she tell you that someone was calling CPS?
No, she did not. She said that she would be the one calling and that she has already contacted them because of the situation at her home.
Okay, now, assuming you and your sister lived alone together, whether you spent time with your boyfriend, I know you have older kids, but you were away. When you were away for that month, were you staying with your boyfriend?
Yes,
Okay, and you left your kids alone, correct?
with my sister.
With your sister. Now, why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
They didn't need the amount of care that a 2-year-old does.
Are you telling me that a 15-year-old doesn't need a lot of care and watching these days? Or a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old doesn't need a lot of watching and supervising? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
Not as much as a 2-year-old.
Well, one is a physical watching to make sure that it eats and drinks and is bathed periodically. The other two are far more difficult. You got to have eyes all over the place to watch a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. Got to have your eyes on their computer. You have to have your eyes on their iPad. You have to have your eyes on their schooling, on their homework, on their everything else. You take a month to go off with your boyfriend. That, to me, is not participating with your children, especially since you suggest that your sister, with whom you left your children, was neglecting her own children.
Your Honor, I would just like to say that I was reaching out to her a lot of the time too, where I would get 1 week there was nothing. She said, "I'm sorry, I had no Wi-Fi." Her children were skipping school. They were not listening to me. They would not do their homework.
Do I need you to reinforce what I just said?
Right.
I don't need you to reinforce
Thank
what I
you.
just said. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports too, if I may, please.
Thank
you.
I'm not finished.
Lucinda Noble is accusing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, of refusing to pay for rent. Tiffany claims Lucinda wrongfully reported her to Child Protective Services.
Now, you have something you want to say?
Many things, actually.
Well, many things. I don't want many things. What I want, stand up. What I want to know is you're her daughter.
Yes.
Your first name?
Anna Noble.
Anna, what do you do?
I work front desk at a hotel.
Graduate from high school?
No.
Why?
I was pulled out and moved to Missouri.
Pulled out by whom? By your mother?
Yeah.
And when your mother pulled you out, how old were you?
17.
Had you been going to school before?
Yes.
In what jurisdiction?
It was an alternative school.
When you say an alternative school, what kind of an alternative school?
For troubled youth.
Tell me about your trouble. Was it behavior trouble? Because
It
you
was
seem...
many things. I was a very wild teenager.
Until when were you a wild teenager?
Until I sent her to live with her dad.
I didn't ask you any questions. So now you can sit down.
Okay.
I'm not going into anything else. Lucinda, so far you went away for a month with your boyfriend, leaving your 3 children who you say don't need supervision. How long were you home before you took the door off her bedroom?
I got back from vacation in February, early February, and the door was removed in April for a few hours.
Okay. Do you have any proof other than this conversation that the plaintiff called CPS?
I believe it is proof. Just the thing that was reported is something she would only know. Would that be considered proof?
Well,
okay.
Let me hear what was reported.
It was reported that I would not treat my child with lice. That was what the CPS report was, and it was unsubstantiated, and I have that all proved.
Okay. When your 5-year-old went to her father, she went to visit with her father, and children do get head lice. It happens periodically. Lots of children who go to school, who interact with other children, come home and they get head lice. Had a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren, and it happens. And you usually treat it. I assume that her father did not treat it. Is
he
that
did
right?
treat it. He told me. He told me immediately.
So he treated it. So how do you know that the head lice was the nature of the complaint?
That's what was on the report.
May I see it? Your children weren't removed, except for your boy.
My one son, and then that lady.
And then returned.
All 3.
Oh, yeah,
All
it was
3 kids were taken.
That's it.
Okay. There you go, sir.
Okay. You had a prior history with Child Protective Services.
Which I was unaware.
That's either a yes or a no.
Yep, yes.
And during the course of those prior proceedings, which were relatively current Child Protective proceedings, because that was in 2021, you were clearly drug tested by the Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services.
In 2018 or 19. This was at my doctor's prior when I was, and they reported it that I had failed one of my
And at that time, you had an open case and you tested positive for serious drugs.
Right.
Very serious drugs. And this says that while under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office while under the influence.
Right.
That's the report.
Right.
Okay. These reports all seem to indicate that they tried to see you, but you kept canceling appointments with them and were a no-show.
Well,
okay, that's what this report says. You gave me the report.
Right.
So let me understand this. After coming in and making an assessment, Child Protective Services determined to file a petition on behalf of your youngest child. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah.
Well, after everything I read there, I think that was probably a good idea. I don't know what happened with that. I assume that the petition was ultimately dismissed if you have your children back with you.
Right
Do
away.
you have your children back with you?
Yeah, right away, as soon as I went to court that day.
That's okay. They determined, after they spoke to you, and irrespective of either her motivation or anybody acting on her behalf or somebody that she knew, or her, called Child Protective Services. The question that I'm presented with, was there a basis for concern about your children?
No.
And based upon the reports that I've read here, and those are reports that you gave me,
Right.
that those serious questions about what was going on with the young children in your house deserved a second look. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You had a serious weight loss. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports too, if I may, please.
Thank
you.
I'm not finished.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because if you've been in family court, as I was for 25 years, often incidents are called in of suspected child abuse and neglect. A caseworker goes out, takes a look, and says, you know, I'll continue to watch it, but I don't have to file a case. It hasn't reached the level where I think that I should file a case and remove a child. In this case, Child Protective Services came and tried to do an investigation, which, according to the worker, you evaded. You missed appointments, you rescheduled, you didn't show up.
One time.
And then, not one time, they also had a prior history of you involving drugs, involving driving your children under the influence of drugs. Recent history. Didn't happen 20 years ago. If it happened 2019, this says 21. If it happened 2019 or 2020, that's still recent history.
Okay.
So whoever called, it was worth, according to this caseworker, they had sufficient information based upon what they saw and what they knew to remove the 2-year-old. So that part of your case is dismissed, which is the only part of your counterclaim that I was really entertaining. You owe your sister $2,096, $2,000 for rent and $48 for, I forget what it was, blinds. Thank you. We're done.
My
This court is
property,
adjourned.
We're done.
I had drug tested every month during the time that this happened, and it was like a oopsie under my doctor's supervision.
I've just helped her, and she takes advantage and takes advantage.
You don't call CPS on your sister when you're the one that took off to Africa for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And this whole thing wasn't about money. It just, I needed someone to tell her, look, you can't take advantage of people anymore.
She's still the outcast that everyone's upset with.
I'm not the outcast, though, but I'm definitely not helping her anymore.
So we've seen it a lot here, claims for unsubstantiated CPS reports being filed and people seeking damages for that. So I'm just wondering, do you think there was a basis? Is that why, obviously, you didn't rule in her favor on the claim of the false CPS report? So there must have been something in there that...
You know, when people use Child Protective Services as a retaliation for other behavior, that's always abhorrent. But there are some situations where CPS may be called because someone knows that there is an abuse or neglect and has not done it until the other person irritates them. Well, that's not a false CPS report. Maybe motivated by something else, but that's not a false report. And so, in this case, the defendant had a history with CPS, current history with CPS that was relatively serious. Well, then it was a good thing that CPS went.
Because that would be basis itself.
It's
for
basis
the claim.
itself. Yeah, basis itself.
That alone. And just because she was cleared at the end of the day and has her children back now doesn't mean that it was an unsubstantiated claim.
Oh, no. They're watching.
Yeah.
They're watching. And they should be watching. I don't think any of them are bargains. The 18-year-old daughter who was here, who was a troubled child, according to her, and never graduated from high school, although she's working, because her mother moved her around also a lot, was certainly an inadequate caretaker for the other 2 younger children. She goes off for a month with her boyfriend. It's amazing how some children just grow up by themselves. Sometimes it works out okay. I don't know, somehow I felt sorry for all of those kids, that they're not getting all the loving and nurturing that they should.
Hopefully, maybe after today, she turns it around.
Maybe.
All parties, please step forward.
Kashana and Michael Breland are suing Kashana's stepdad, Harry Schnall, for car repairs and damage credit.
Miss Breland, this is your stepfather.
Yes.
That's your dad.
Yes.
This is your claim. He needed a car because his car, which was an old Cadillac, was going in for repair. Your dad had bought you a car in 2018.
Yes.
And when he bought you this car in 2018, it was a 2013 car that you kept 18, 19, and 20?
The vehicle? No, I had the vehicle from 2018 to July 2019.
So just for 1 year?
Yep, July in 2019 was when I made the agreement to give the vehicle to...
Okay. You made the agreement to give it to your stepfather with the proviso because you were buying a new car, another car.
Yes.
According to you, that he would take over the payments on the car because there was a loan on the car that you were paying off and that your father was a signatory on.
Yes.
And you have children, and I don't know why this car was no good for you anymore, but you said you got another car because of your children.
Yes, I got another vehicle because I had an additional son and it just wasn't enough room for 3 kids.
What kind of car is it?
It was a GMC Terrain. It's an SUV 5-passenger, but I felt like I needed a little bit more room, so I ended up getting a 7-passenger. That way I could have the 3rd row.
Okay. So according to you, the arrangement was he would take over the payments on the car, and the car would be turned over to him as soon as he finished making the payments on the car.
Yes.
Was that your agreement with him?
Yes, that was our agreement.
And he did make payments on the car in 2019, 2020, 2021, and according to you, he stopped making payments in 2022. What month in 2022?
January 2022 was the last payment I received.
As a result of which, both of your credits were at risk. He dropped the car off at some relative's house because the engine was blown. He had it towed to some relative's house and stopped making the payments.
Yes, that is correct.
Your stepfather says, well, that really wasn't the agreement. My Cadillac wasn't working. It was in the shop in 2019. And the agreement was, while the car was in the shop, I would use your car and pay you $225 a month for it. But as soon as my car was out of the shop, you would take the car back. That's what you say, sir.
Yes. Yeah, I would take it back until my car got fixed. And the only reason it took so long to get fixed because of the pandemic, you know. And
why? People couldn't go into their garage to fix a car?
Yes, they probably could, but at that time, I really didn't have the money to go and pay for it, so I just...
Well, that's your problem.
I understand that.
Well, that's your problem. So the car was fixed, but you didn't have the money to go and pick up the car.
No, it wasn't fixed.
Oh.
So I didn't have them fixed until I'd be able to get the money to go have it fixed.
Did you explain that to her, sir, when she gave you the car?
No. See, my agreement thought I was going to keep the car until my car gets fixed and I would make the monthly payment. That's what I had.
I understand that, but what... Yeah. I understand that.
Okay.
Mr. Chenal.
Yes.
But taking your story, if my stepfather said to me, listen, I'll take your car, I have a car that's in the shop, I'll use it and pay for it while the car's being fixed.
Not what?
In my view, that would be, well, maybe it would take you 2 weeks. Maybe it would take you a month. Maybe it would take you 2 months. But it wouldn't take you 3 years.
Your Honor, what I'm saying, my car wasn't in the shop, my car was broke down. And I told her, I thought we had agreement to me make the payment on that car till I get ready to get
you told me that already.
Car fixed, but I didn't put it in the shop till I was able to put it in the shop to get fixed.
You devalued her car while you had it.
Yeah, okay.
You devalued the car. You got a car that was running. You used the car for 2.5 years that was running. It stopped running because the engine was blown.
Yes.
So it was dead stopped. You had to have it towed to somebody's house.
Yes.
And then you stopped making the payments on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Right.
I think she had a lemon because...
She didn't have a lemon. You drove it for 2 years.
Yes, but I just had got the oil changed in that car a month before the engine blew.
And you drove it for 2 years.
Yes.
Well, then it wasn't a lemon.
Kashana and Michael Breland claimed Kashana's stepdad, Harry Schnall, owes for car repairs and damage credit.
Now, you have to act not only responsibly, but it would seem to me morally. This is your stepdaughter. You've known her for a long time.
Yes.
She went out, based upon her agreement with you, she went out and bought another car.
Yes.
Does the other car have a loan?
Yes.
Well, now she's stuck with 2 loans. And one of them has a car that you blew the engine on.
I made sure the main was up on that car. I think she had a lemon because...
She didn't have a lemon. You drove it for 2 years.
Yes, but I just had got the oil changed in that car a month before the engine blew. I don't know why the engine blew.
How many years did you have the car?
2 years.
And you drove it for 2 years?
Yes.
Well, then it wasn't a lemon.
Okay.
How much was left on the loan of the car?
There is still $3,752.63 owed left on the vehicle.
Okay, and where is the car now?
It is parked at a relative's house.
Your problem is the car is in your name. So you have to sell the car, subject to this lien. You have to be able to get something for the car. Do you understand?
Yes.
What's the value of that car?
Based on 80,000 miles, it didn't say in the papers, but around 7,000 to 9,000.
And what if it's in very poor condition?
I have to look into it.
Take a look and see, because this car so far is not running.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been running for almost now a year.
Yes, that's correct.
So at best you can sell it for scrap. So you have to get the car and you can scrap it because nobody's going to buy it when they can't drive it.
So Kelley Blue Book will not provide an estimate for poor conditions, vehicles that are not running or in poor condition. But for a fair condition, they say between 5,000 and 6,000.
Well, this is non-running.
I know.
It's been not running for a year.
I can't get an estimate for a non-running vehicle from Kelley Blue Book.
So now I know what the parameters are. You want to tell me about where this agreement took place with your stepfather?
The agreement took place at the car lots because I was in the middle of getting a new vehicle, so we were at the car lot.
So that was in 2019?
July 3rd, 2019.
So you went with him to get the new car?
Yes.
Oh, good. So tell me about the conversation.
So I asked him, I was like, hey, do you think that, because in order for me to get this new vehicle, they said that I had a debt to income ratio thing because I couldn't get a new vehicle with owing money on the other vehicle. So I said, hey, how does this sound? You're down a vehicle because the engine blew on your prior vehicle. How about I give you this car, you finish making the payments on it, and then I get my new vehicle. But in order for me to get my new vehicle, I needed a co-signer. So I said, how about this? How about you co-sign on this new vehicle for me? Yes, my stepfather. You co-sign on this new vehicle for me. I'll make the payments like I always do. And you just take over the payments on my GMC Terrain. He said, okay, yep, we can do that because I need another vehicle.
So he is the co-signatory on your new car?
That at the time, that was the vehicle that I had. I now have a different vehicle.
You mean in 2019 you had yet another car?
Yes, but I made sure that I paid it off and there was no effect to him by any means. Okay. Because I knew that, it wasn't just in my name, it was in his name also. So I didn't want to do that to him. So I made sure that not only did I pay the vehicle off, but I got the transmission repaired and then I sold it.
So what does your father have to do with this case?
So my father was affected because with the payments being late.
The car was in my name also.
Oh, so it was in joint names, you and your daughter.
Well, they were supposed to put it as me, the co-signer, but they put me as the
primary.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Have you been making the payments since January?
I was making payments on it from February to September.
And then what happened?
I couldn't afford to make the payments anymore. I'm a single mom of four kids.
So what happened?
So it's behind now.
Since September?
Yep, it's behind since.
September, October, November. So it's behind 3 months.
Yes.
Had they notified you that they want to repossess it?
No,
they haven't notified.
Repo, they've given us options to try to save our credit after
Okay, I'd like to see what those options are. Did they send it to you in writing?
No.
Did they send you a letter?
It was verbal on the phone when they called, and we were discussing other options that they may offer to
Okay, so
make
what was the
this so
best
it's not
option
worse.
that they offered you?
The best option that they offered was basically to come up with about $396 to pay to get the car note caught up because it was 4 months behind. The car note's $225 each month. So it wouldn't have got...
No. So they didn't offer you a whole payout. They just offered you...
To catch up.
To catch up.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. But still, what's due and owing on the car is $3,752.
Yes.
Okay. And when your stepfather agreed to that, did he say anything to you with regard to his Cadillac going in for service and he was going to just use it until his Cadillac got...
No, Your Honor, that is incorrect.
Okay. You remember going with your stepdaughter when she was purchasing a new car in 2019?
Yes, I do.
Did you co-sign that car for her?
Yes.
So far what she says is accurate.
Yes.
And at that time, did you take her old car?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea what you can get for this car. And you know how you relied on him to be a good guy and to do what he was supposed to do?
Yes.
I'm awarding you $3,752. That's for you to pay off the bank. Then I don't think you can find a buyer for this car. You may have to scrap it, right?
Yes.
It's possible that there's no point in fixing it. You're not going to invest thousands of dollars in fixing it when it probably is at best worth $5,000. And if it's going to cost you $3,000 to try to get it up and running, it doesn't pay. It doesn't pay. So I'm going to rely on you to do the right thing. It sounds as if you do that while I'm awarding you $3,752, whatever money you get for the car goes to him. Do you understand? If you scrap it for $70, he gets it. I don't see that it's worth much more. I certainly wouldn't invest in a car that's been sitting dead for a year with a blown engine. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,752 with him.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was pretty fair.
I think it was very fair.
My agreement, though, I paid for the car until I get my car fixed.
I've tried multiple times to reach out to him, and I couldn't get a hold of him, so it's really sad that it had to come to this.
She had to do what she had to do. That's all I can say.
I've learned that you can't help anyone, not even family.
Time to move on. Go on about my business, yes.
I'm a nice person, so I guess you just sometimes can't be nice to everyone.
You know what's so disappointing? She seems like a very lovely young lady. Her father seems like a nice man. He had actually helped to purchase the first car, and I think co-signed a loan for her or bought her the car in 2018 that she then turned over to him. But he's been her stepfather for a long time. How could you be so irresponsible?
And you know she's a single parent of 4 children who relies a lot on her credit.
And her credit on her car.
And
she's maintained her credit.
Yes, except for the fact that her stepfather sort of ruined it for her a little.
He really didn't have a defense.
No.
I don't think he had a defense. I don't think that you borrow somebody's car until your car is fixed 3 years later. I don't think that's a defense.
Yenny Pajaro is suing his ex-girlfriend, Gigi Strackman, for a plane ticket, credit card charges, and a stolen cat.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2016, Pajaro versus Stratman.
Mr. Pajaro, it is your claim that the defendant, who lived with you for a brief period of time, owes you money for a plane ticket and for her unauthorized use of your credit card.
That's correct.
I don't know what the defense is to this, except that I think her defense is that you were just stupid and she took advantage of you. No. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm actually trying to figure it out. But you met the defendant, according to you, on an online dating app and started a conversation with her on what date?
So we met in March 2020 on a dating app for LGBTQ people. We started dating in March 2020. 4 months later, she moved in with me, which I know is not smart, but...
July?
Yes, in July 2020.
And where had she been living?
She had been living in Florida.
And where do you live?
I live in Seattle, Washington.
Did you send her money for a plane ticket? How did she get to you?
She had money herself at that time to cover the cost of moving.
So she moved and it was her own funds that she used to move?
Yeah, the swindling hadn't started yet.
You must have had some substantial What is this? What is this look? I don't know what this look is.
Oh, it's just the verbiage.
Okay, well, let me go back and let me start with you, okay? Because there's only one theatrical person here in this room, and that's me. You understand?
I do.
Yes. I get paid the big bucks to be theatrical. Okay, so Miss Strackman, you lived in Miami. He lived in Seattle, Washington. You decided to move in with him. What kind of work were you doing in Seattle?
I was a video editor, but when COVID happened, everyone kind of lost their jobs.
And what arrangements did you make with him when you were going to move in with him?
He told me that if I gave up my life in Florida, I had a very lovely apartment, lots of friends.
You had a lovely apartment, you had
I
nice
gave up
friends,
everything
but
to go
no
and
job.
move to Seattle.
Okay, so he said, move to Seattle and I'll take care of you.
Yes.
That's what you say in here.
Yes.
And that was in July of 2020.
Yes.
Is that about what you said to her?
No. The reason she moved in, again, it was 4 months after we started dating, which normally...
Had you seen her during those 4 months?
We had Zoom.
That's either yes or no.
No.
No, you had no physical contact with her?
No.
Okay.
But because we were in lockdown and we were both pretty isolated, it made sense. Her lease was ending and things moved really fast between us, so we decided to try it together. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any discussion about what she was going to do once she got to Seattle?
Yeah, so as she stated, she was a freelance video editor, and she said she was going to potentially have more work in Seattle and continue to try and find gigs for that or find other employment, drive for Uber Eats.
But she came to you and she wasn't working?
She wasn't working, no.
Okay. And the relationship with her ended in what month?
It ended in February 2021.
So it was a relatively short live-in period, maybe 6-7 months.
Right, because of her.
Did she ever work when she was with you?
Not that I
Just a second, I'm going to ask her. Did you ever have full-time gainful employment during the time that you lived with the plaintiff?
I did not. I was not supposed to.
I didn't ask you. I don't ask to be editorialized. I asked you, did you ever work full-time?
No.
Did you ever work part-time?
No.
Okay. Then there came a time, according to what I read in both of your papers, that he purchased a plane ticket for you to go back to Miami. That would be a yes.
That is correct. You're right.
And what month was that?
That was in February of 2021.
And tell me, in your own words, what you told him as to why you wanted to go to Miami, because he wasn't going with you.
He was not going with me.
Tell me what you told him as to why you needed to go to Miami.
I told him that I needed to visit my sister.
And does your sister live in Miami?
Yes.
Had you been there to visit her before?
I had, yeah.
While you were living with him?
No. I didn't travel.
So this was the first time you wanted to go and visit your sister?
Yes.
Okay, was there any specific reason that you gave him as to why you wanted to go visit your sister?
She was sick and I wanted to be there.
But did you tell him what she was sick with?
Yeah, it was COVID.
Does she live alone?
At the time, yes.
You know, it's not going to be easy. It's going to get harder. Now, the plaintiff seems like a relatively intelligent human being. Hands off hips. If somebody I lived with say, I want to go and see, unless it was a young child, maybe in a school or something that lived alone in an attic dormer, I want to go see my sister who's sick with COVID, and you don't have COVID, and this is 2021, I would say, well, why would you do that and put yourself at risk and then come back and put me at risk? Didn't you have that conversation?
We didn't, Your Honor, no. It just didn't come up.
I want to go take care of my sister because she has COVID? What about isolation? Didn't you ever hear about that?
I did hear about that. I spent a lot
Well,
of
what do you
time
think that means?
Isolation means not traveling.
No, isolation means you're not supposed to be around other people if you test positive for COVID. If you're sick, stay at home. You don't travel cross country to be with somebody who's sick. But it doesn't make any difference, actually, because you should have picked up on that or whatever, because you didn't really want this ticket, according to what I read, Miss Strackman, to go and visit your sick sister. You needed this ticket because you had started to become involved with a boyfriend who was in jail in Florida.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, so that's a yes, which you didn't tell him. So you took the money from him for, let's just start with the ticket, under false pretenses.
I did, but I...
Just a second. That's all. I did. Not a but. Not a little. I did take the money from him under false pretenses when you went to Florida. He said you needed it for one thing, and in fact, you didn't. That's under false pretenses. How much was the ticket?
The ticket was for $427.40.
Okay. And when you went to Florida, Miss Strackman, and you stayed in a hotel, motel, what did you stay in?
I stayed in a hotel.
And whose charge account did you use for the hotel?
Yenny had given me a credit card.
That's not what I asked you. That's a name. Whose credit card did you use when you stayed at the hotel?
The plaintiff, Yenny's.
Mm-hmm. And that was by pre-arrangement with him that you were going to stay in a hotel rather than with your sister?
No, but I had the credit card for...
Now, that's not what I mean. Let's go back. You had the credit card. I'm assuming for the purpose of this question that what you say, and I don't know if it's true, but assuming for this question that what you say in your answer is accurate, that he gave you a credit card to use for your necessaries and expenses for emergencies.
Yes.
Yes. You would agree that going to visit secretly another boyfriend in Miami is not a necessity.
You would agree that Yenny cheating on me was not a necessity.
No. But did you use his credit card?
I did, and I believe that human love and kindness.
Okay, just a second. That's it. Do I look like I need help from you? If you had given him, Miss Strackman, a credit card, I want you to try to take everything else from out of your mind. If you had given him your credit card and said, I'm giving this to you because I said to you I would take care of you when we lived together if you didn't have a job. Let's say I believe that. I'm not so sure, but let's say I believe that. You would agree that going to see another boyfriend across the country was not a necessity for him, or for me, or for Whitney,
for you, no,
or for
but
Sarah.
For me, I'm a woman with needs. I need dopamine, I need love, I need connection, and I wasn't getting that from Yenny. So it was a necessity that I went to go visit another man. Yenny had other girls as well on the side.
But you didn't get, just a second, Miss Strackman, you didn't pay for the other girls. You didn't pay for his other girls.
I paid emotionally.
Oh, you said, what an idiot.
Yenny Pajaro claims his ex-girlfriend, Gigi Strackman, owes for the cost of a plane ticket, credit card charges, and stealing his cat. Gigi says they were all necessary expenses for her.
Now, you should feel so lucky that you got off so cheap.
I think you should assume everything that comes out of her mouth.
No.
Why?
Yeah.
Because
no.
if I had, I wouldn't be here.
I get who I'm dealing with,
Yes.
sir. $427 for the flight ticket. How much was the credit card?
The credit card. Also, there's an incident with my cat as well, which
Just a second.
I'll address later.
Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute. That's your least strong suit, but it sort of tells me again who I'm dealing with.
Okay.
How much did she use on the credit card in Miami?
Okay.
Only in Miami.
Right. In Miami, she spent $1,000 on.
Now, just a second. Is that a sheet from your credit card company?
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Easier.
Would you like me to add the $427 for the flight ticket?
Yeah. But separate the two for me now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Giving me start. Just show me where the bills are.
So those are two separate credit card statements because she used it in 2 separate months. One of those is when she initially started using it, which was.
I don't care when she initially started.
Okay.
Let's understand.
Yeah.
She got your credit card.
Yes.
I only want to see the charges from Miami.
Okay. It's the one that says bail bonds, the bigger charge, which was.
Just circle.
Okay.
How much?
That was for $1,000, but overall it was.
No. $1,000. We're going to do it this way. $1,000 bail bonds.
Yes.
Okay. Next.
And then she spent $262.50 at a hotel for both of them.
$250 for a hotel.
And then she spent $105 on a fancy dinner for her and her lover.
And her what?
And her lover.
Okay. 150?
150 is not fancy. That's the kind of person you're dealing with.
150. I don't think there's a question before you, madam. 10, 4, $1,400 there. Is that close?
Including the 1,000?
Including the 1,000, but then not including the 425.
Yeah.
So it would be 1,827.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Now let's get to the final issue. So that takes care of your plane ticket and the credit card while she was in Miami. Now let's talk about the cat. Ms. Strackman, you moved in with the plaintiff July of 20.
Yes.
And when you moved in with the plaintiff, did he have a cat?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And what was that cat's name?
That cat's name is Momo.
And you lived with him a total of approximately 6 months.
Yes, Your Honor. And during that time, they kept.
No, I didn't ask you any questions. There's no question before
Daddy.
you. There's no question before you. I have dates. You moved in, you lived with him for 6 months. When you moved in, the cat was there. And if you recall, in what month and year had you gotten the cat?
I got Momo right before she moved in with me as an emotional support animal, which is legally protected.
When you say right before she moved in with you, give me the month.
It was
And where did you get the cat from?
June 2020. I adopted her from a shelter.
So you didn't have the cat long?
No.
When she moved in?
No.
And then the two of you had the cat?
Yes.
Okay,
but
great.
The cat was
and then when she, just a second, then when she left in February of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are now in August of 2022, and you recently filed this case with regard to your cat.
Right. I didn't know where she was.
Just a second.
Disappeared.
I don't care.
Okay.
You recently filed this case with regard to the cat. Did you make a police report when she left with the cat?
I don't.
The answer is either yes or no.
I don't like involving the police, so no. I didn't want to ruin her life.
Oh, well. I want to tell you something. I have a small 4-pound dog at home. I love that creature more than anything in the world, except my grandchildren, my husband, and my children. Hope there are enough life rafts for everybody, including the dog.
I did try to hire a private investigator in Florida, but I didn't know where she was.
Okay. You didn't report it to the police. And I do have a problem with that. Now, Ms. Strackman, you knew when you moved into him he had this cat that he had adopted.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me What led you to believe you had the legal right to take that cat?
Because that cat had become severely bonded to me. Yenny was neglecting both of us, both of the women in his life he chose to neglect.
Because I was working and
No, just a second. Don't.
Sorry, I paid for everything.
And so the cat.
So he was neglecting the cat and you, so you decided maybe half a neglect, you could be one whole person.
Exactly. Me and her just getting out of here and gonna go start a new life together. I spent day and night with that cat. That cat was extremely bonded to me. She would be devastated without me.
Tell me how the cat died in your custody. Tell me how the cat died in your custody. That's not a smile story.
It's not. No, it's absolutely devastating. I am completely torn up about it. Unfortunately, my boyfriend's dog was not accustomed to cats and mistook her for a toy, and she did not survive that.
What kind of a dog does your boyfriend have?
We don't know the breed. I've never done the genetic testing.
Do you have a picture of the dog?
I do not. I didn't bring any evidence. So I was hoping you just used
brought your smile. Okay.
She's not with her boyfriend.
She said, I didn't ask you a question. There's no question before you.
Love transcends bars, Annie.
Okay. 1827, $1,000 for taking his cat, and because you're a fool. 7, 2, 8, 2827. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
First of all, I'm glad, and I think justice was served. I'm not for Momo, but for the other scams that Jacqueline pulled.
Then I need dopamine, I need oxytocin, I need love, I need care.
Well, credit card fraud.
And Yenny said that they were going to be the person who was going to give that to me.
Deception, played with my heart.
And then didn't, so I had to find it elsewhere.
It was incredibly, this was Momo.
I did not have the cat killed. I was very attached to Momo. That was my cat as well.
It was incredibly hard to deal with. I was also alone when I had to process that news, so.
I did not set a hitman out on the cat. That's a lot to say.
She saw me as a sugar daddy, and she saw herself as a wannabe Anna Nicole Smith. Unfortunately, neither of us are those things.
Could I plead the fifth on finding another sugar daddy?
Yet another lesson we learned about cohabitants living together and the rules of what not to do. No cars, no pets, no money exchanges.
No joint pets, no joint.
Exactly. But today we learned a new one. Today, don't give access to your credit card to anyone that you don't want racking up charges for any purpose, even to visit a secondary lover in another state.
You know, the divorce rate in this country is still hovering somewhere around 50%. The living togethers who don't quite make it to the marriage place is a much greater number.
Yeah.
Living togethers don't stay together 70% of the time. Why in the world would you buy a pet together?
It's a risk.
Car together, a timeshare together.
True.
Or give somebody a credit card.
Yeah.
At the time that you do it, you're happy with them. But since at least 70% of the time you're going to go your own separate ways, at that time you're mad at each other.
And the lines get blurry.
And the lines get blurry, absolutely.
Levi Shaw is suing his parents, Davery and Nathan Celestine, for the repair costs of an 18-wheeler truck.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
How are you?
Case number 2032, Shaw versus Celestine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Shaw, these are your parents, is that right?
Yes, they are.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Just the very broad framework of this case. You're suing your parents for money that you put into a truck that belongs to them.
Correct.
And they are counterclaiming for money that they say you owe them for a balance of a dog they purchased for you. The truck that you fixed belonged to your parents.
Yes, the agreement was...
The truck that you fixed belonged to your parents. And what I gather is that you would come into some money. Is not an answer.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And when did you come into that money?
I never came into any money from them after I fixed
Not
the
from
truck.
them. I didn't say from them that you came into some money. Is not an answer.
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. I came into some
So I
money
want
in October.
you to... In October, you were not employed.
I was employed.
By whom?
Trucking.
Is that their company?
No, I was working with them and their brother.
So you were working with the family?
Yes.
Okay. That was in October.
Yes,
October
ma'am.
of 2021. It's not an answer.
I mean, yes,
yes
ma'am.
is an
I'm
answer.
sorry.
And how much did you come into?
About $10,000 for the month of September and October.
And then your father said to you, I assume, you should take some of that money and buy a 16-wheeler truck so that you
No,
could...
ma'am.
Well, how did that happen, sir, that you got possession of your parents' truck?
So
Did you try to buy a truck on your own?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay,
And
in
that
what
deal
month?
failed.
Just a second. In what month did you try to buy a truck for yourself?
January.
January of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And tried to buy a truck so that you could have your own truck for long hauling and business.
Yes, ma'am.
And you went to a dealer and you found the truck that you liked, but you didn't qualify for financing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how much is a new truck?
That truck, it wasn't new. It was a 2015, and they priced it at $60,000.
60.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told your parents about that?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
There was a discussion that they had an older truck that wasn't running.
It needed minor work.
It needed...
That was told to me.
Okay, so they said to you it needs minor work. Was it running?
It was running, but the diamond seal was cracked, so eventually the truck was just going to break down completely.
Okay, so you took that truck with the understanding that you were going to repair the truck, and then what?
To make money. But
So you would repair the truck and then use it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you would keep most of the profits from using that truck? I mean, I'm trying to understand what the agreement was.
My dad, Nathan, told me that the truck was only going to be worth $4,000 to fix, which was a diamond seal. It needs some bushings. It needs something for the exhaust pipe. Okay. And I was like, okay. But when the dude kept calling me for the truck, and he was like, okay, this needs to be done.
But you took the truck into a mechanic?
Yes, ma'am.
And did they give you an estimate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Before or after they did the work?
They gave me one before, but I don't have that estimate, but I have the one for after.
You mean after they completed the work, they sent you a bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's not an estimate. An estimate, sir, is when you go in and say, here is a truck. I want you to give me an estimate of what it is to have it fixed. Mm-hmm. And they give you an estimate, and then you determine whether or not you want them to do any or all of that work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would never bring a truck into any mechanic or to any dealership mechanic and say, fix it.
When they was calling me, telling me additional problems that was wrong, I would call them, which I have my phone records that show that I was also calling them once the dealership called me to fix the truck.
Well,
because some
just a
stuff
second.
on the truck wasn't able, like it needed a new gear, it needed new transmission was messed up on the truck.
Just a second. All I want is what you're telling me, that your father told you to go ahead and fix those things each time you got a call?
Yes.
Okay, so you would call him in. Your father would not say to you, well, how much is that to fix?
Well, yeah, he was, but I had already had a settled amount that I told him that I was willing to spend, which was $10,000.
Well, did you spend $10,000?
The truck was actually over $10,000.
I understand to fix it, but you actually spent
$10,000.
You actually spent the $10,000.
$10,900 to be exact.
To fix the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think the truck was $13,000 to fix.
Yes, ma'am.
So you paid the additional $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the truck is running.
Yes, ma'am. It's running. It was running before, Jan.
But it's running now better because there are.
Yes, ma'am.
Because
not using it.
Just a second. I can only hear from one of you. He said the truck is in use. You said no.
It's not used. Or is the truck?
No, Jan. I misunderstood what you said. I thought you was talking about the repair. You saying is the truck operable now? Yes, it's operable, but it's not on the road.
It's not on the road? Who
Yes,
cares
ma'am.
if it's not on the road?
Oh, yes.
The idea was he was supposed to fix the truck and supposed to be able to use the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Is he able to use the truck?
Yes, he's able to use the truck.
Okay, great. When was the last time he tried to use the truck?
He never tried to use the truck after it was fixed. He said that he no longer wanted to be a part of the deal to give him his money back.
Okay.
I have something. Now, when the truck originally got fixed in February, my dad came into town multiple times. It was one more piece that needed to be fixed, which was the ABS module, which if you get pulled over, they're going to stop you and shut you down completely.
I don't know.
And I told him, hey, we need to get that fixed. He came into town 3 times, and I asked him, hey, are you going to take the truck to the shop? Hey, are you going to take the truck to the shop? He said no. And he's like, well, it don't have any insurance. And it was just a whole bunch of excuses why he couldn't take the truck to the shop.
Whether he can or he can't, he says, and your mother says you're able to use the truck.
But I don't have a CDL, so I'm not able to drive it.
Well, you didn't have that when you took it in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
to be fixed.
But I didn't take the truck over there. He drove the truck to the mechanic shop.
Whatever, I don't care who drove it there, but your agreement with him was you tried to buy a new truck. It was much too expensive. Your agreement with your parents was that you would take an older truck of theirs that needed a lot of work, and you took it into a mechanic, and the mechanic was going to fix the truck, make it operable, so that you would have an opportunity to use it and make money.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm asking you, now the truck is fixed to the tune of $13,000. When was the last time that you asked to use the truck that your parents said you can't?
Well, I asked him, can I have his dad take the truck to get the additional piece put on, and he told me no, just to wait till he come into town.
Okay. After the agreement that your son was going to pay the money, fix the truck, was your agreement with him that he could use it at will?
I gave him a specific time.
I'd like to hear what the specific times
were. The specific time was...
Let's make it up as we go.
No, ma'am. I'm thinking straight to you. I'm going to tell you just like it actually is.
Levi Shaw claims his parents, Davery and Nathan Celesti, owe for the repairs of an 18-wheeler truck. Levi's parents are countersuing for the balance of an English bulldog.
Was the additional piece put on the truck that he's talking about?
No, ma'am, it didn't actually need that addition. It was an ABS modulator, which on that particular model was a 1995 FLD Classic. On that particular model, you don't need that to reset the ABS light. All you need is a sensor that goes in the hub of the wheel.
What I'm asking you is, your son said that you needed this one part. This is your business.
Yes, ma'am.
How much is that one part?
This is a part that I never researched, so I can't tell you that. But according to him...
Perhaps I didn't ask you anything. Perhaps you can tell me.
The part was $900.
That was returned back.
It was never returned because they wouldn't let me return it because it's dealing with wires. So when I asked them, can I return it, they said no. And I had a text where I texted her and I said, hey, they will not let me return this piece.
Return what piece?
The ABS module. They would not let me return it because it's electrical, and they do not accept returns on electric pieces.
So is what you're telling me that you bought this piece for $900?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that it wasn't necessary. You didn't buy it from him.
No, but I don't know if it was necessary, but what the mechanic told me and what
you can't tell me what the mechanic told you.
Well, I'm just saying the mechanic told
No,
me
you
that
can't tell me what the mechanic told you. Well, all I'm telling you, Mr. Shaw, is you had an agreement with your parents to fix a truck and then to be able to use it. And I want to know whether they have ever denied you the right, because that was the contract that you made. You never made a contract with them that you would take a truck to the mechanic and they would pay for the repairs. You never made that contract with them. You want me to say that that was your contract with them. They say the truck is operable now and that you can use it. When do you want to use it?
Well, if they're willing to let me use it, then I want to use it as soon as possible.
Okay, and you can drive the truck?
No, I was going to hire a driver.
Okay, and the truck now is not on the road, is that correct?
That's correct. That's
yes, ma'am, that's right.
Now,
that's right. That's right.
The truck is not on the road.
No, ma'am, it's not.
Is what you said,
Yes.
but operable.
Yes, it's not operable.
Okay, and after the agreement that your son was going to pay the money, fix the truck, and then be able to work at it so that he's getting some benefit from what he put into the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an agreement?
I wanted to ask.
I'm not looking at you.
Okay.
Did you have a discussion with him about how much of the time he would be able to utilize the truck, or was your agreement with him that he could use it at will?
I gave him a specific time. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear what the specific times
were. The specific time was...
Let's make it up as we go.
No, ma'am. I'm thinking straight to you. I'm going to tell you just like it actually is. I gave him specifically, according to him, about 3 months of when he probably needed it, to get himself together.
No, just a second. You mean he was going to spend $10,000 on fixing the truck and you were going to let him use it for 3 months?
Well,
put your hand down. I'm not talking to you.
Well, as long as he needed it. I'm going to put it that way. As long as he needed the truck.
Okay. So now that's better.
Yes, ma'am.
So that he can use the truck whenever he needs it, and he's going to get a driver. I just want to know, because we're going to have to memorialize all this in an order. What do you want?
We had a driver. My brother was the driver.
I don't care whether your brother was the driver or not. That was not the agreement that your husband said he made with his son.
Yes, ma'am.
He says he made an agreement with him that if he paid to have it fixed, he could use the truck whenever he wanted to. That's what your father says.
No, that is not
Okay,
that is not
so
true.
when did you ask to use the truck?
So in January, when I was getting the truck fixed, they told me $4,000. But as the mechanic kept calling me, adding on stuff, I said, hey, I'm not about to pay all this money, and y'all telling me I can just use it. If I'm about to put all my money into it, I want the truck. And my mom was like, okay, you can do that. Because in January, they didn't make any money.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is what you said to your mother, I'm not going to put in all this money unless the truck belongs to me.
Correct.
Well, that's not unreasonable, Mr. Shaw. I can actually see that. You're spending $10,000 of your money and you want to be able to use the truck. And you want it to be able to not have it on a whim of somebody else.
Yes, ma'am.
How old is this truck?
This truck is exactly 22 years old.
How long have you owned it?
I've owned it since I was 23 years old.
Okay, so you've owned it since it was new.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make a living from it?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Good. Do you have other trucks now?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How many others?
Just one other. I'm not no big scale company. I just got one other truck, yes, ma'am.
Can I see the title to the truck, please?
To the truck we're talking about?
Yes.
I don't have that title with me.
Why not?
I was under the impression that I didn't need to bring it.
Okay, and according to you, the truck's not on the road now?
No, ma'am, it's not on the road.
Do you remember having a conversation with your son about, I'm not going to spend all this money unless the truck is mine?
Yes, ma'am, I do remember that conversation.
Do you remember where it took place?
He was driving and I was at home.
So it was over the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Remember what month that was?
January.
January of 2022.
Correct.
Tell me what you said to him and what he said to you.
I told him, I totally understand what you're saying. I said, let me talk to your daddy and we'll see what we could do. But
Great. As a parent, that sounds perfectly reasonable. And did you speak to your husband?
Yes, I did.
Did the two of you own the truck?
He owns the truck. It's in his name and Nathan's name.
So you said, okay, that sounds okay. Let me talk to your daddy. You have to talk to the owner of the truck because
Correct.
now you're seeking to change the agreement. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And after you spoke to your mother, did you have a conversation with your father about the ownership of the truck?
Yes, we did.
And tell me when that was and what was discussed.
It was in January as well, and when I told him that, he said he totally agreed with me that if I put in majority of the money, that I can have the truck.
Okay. I want to tell you certain things sort of ring true to me. If I were a young person and spending all my money for a business, because this is the business that he was going to be in, he was going to hire a driver and he was going to take a certain amount of the profits. I could understand him saying to his parents, who now have a truck that they're not using because it's not on the road, I'm going to spend all my savings, it looks like, because the initial estimate was $4,000, but it kept going up and up and up and up and up. So if I'm going to spend all this, put your hand down. If I'm going to spend all this money, I'd like to own the truck. And in response to that, his mother said, and acknowledges that she said, it sounds right to me, I'm going to speak to your father. And according to you, you spoke to your father and your father said, sounds okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you went ahead and spent the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Put your hand down. This
Your
is
Honor,
not
I don't understand.
This is not.
Your Honor.
dollars
I
on to
done
fix-
made over $1
to
million
fix your
with the
truck?
truck.
That's ridiculous.
I want you to stop it.
Say, man. Hey, man.
Okay.
How can you tell me
Now,
to stop
are
on
we
something
going-
I worked blood, sweat, and tears on? He finna take.
Levi Shaw says his parents, Davry and Nathan Celestine, owe for the costs of repairs to an 18-wheeler truck. Levi's parents say he never used the truck, and it is still not fixed.
I'd like to see the bills for the truck.
Oh, I have it on my phone.
Well, what is that?
These was the bank statements because at first they was countersuing for insurance as well. So I was showing bank statements where I had sent them money. So
No, I
that's
don't-
what these was
Yeah.
for. But I have it on my phone, but I don't have it in the statements.
Well, I need it.
Here you go.
Is that the one final invoice?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it.
And it also have at the bottom where it says it needs the ABS
Just hold it up.
module.
Your Honor, can I see that as well?
Yes. Well, so the entire amount is $13,000.
$13,000 and some change.
And your father paid $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not the correct invoice.
What?
I
got
have
the
the original invoice.
Fine, I'll take a look
This
at
the
yours.
invoice that was sent to me via, so by their email, which I could pull up their email as well.
And it shows that it's paid on the back.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the same thing as he showed me.
But it has our name on it.
Who cares?
The ones that he showed you, it changed since then.
Well, but let me ask you a question.
No.
Unless I'm missing something,
No.
you're not questioning the fact that he paid $10,000 to fix the truck out of the $13,000 that the truck was. Are you questioning that?
No, I'm not
Okay,
questioning that.
then I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay.
Let's go over this one more time. When your son said to you, if I'm going to spend all this money, I want to own the truck, and your wife had the same conversation with you, right? She said, I got a call from Levi. Levi said if he's going to spend all this money, he really wants the truck, and she actually thought it was okay. And what did you say, sir?
I said that I'm not going to sell you the truck.
Why?
I will let you use the truck.
No, when did you say that?
Because I have other children.
Oh, no, but
And-
your other children didn't put any money into the truck.
No, I know.
No,
what
just a
you're saying.
second. Your other children didn't put
I
any
know what
money
you're
into
saying,
the truck.
but there's like
Hand down.
he didn't
Okay.
ask me to buy the truck.
Okay.
Donna. He asked could he use it.
Just a second.
He was gonna sell it to my uncle because when the repairs got done, they actually didn't have enough money because I had $8,000 saved up. They took $4,000 of my $8,000
That you got
to pay
paid
the.
back.
Yes, but they didn't have the money, so
That's
when
not true.
you
That's
just
not
said
Mr.
you bought
Shaw, Mr.
$4,000
Shaw,
from me.
I don't expect you to talk to each other. I don't expect you to talk to
Yes,
him.
ma'am, I understand.
Very easy. I believe that you changed the contract with your son from a contract where he would pay for the repairs, which was supposed to be $4,000, and then you have the use of the truck, to the fact that he was going to spend $10,000, which was all of his money. Put your hand down. I'm not. This 22-year-old truck that you've had since it was new was going to be his. And I am going to craft an order to the Department of Motor Vehicles to reissue a title in the truck to him. Do you understand? He's going to take that order. He's going to get a new registration for the car and a new ownership. Unless you want, put your hand down. This is
Your
not
Honor, I don't
a.
understand
This is
that,
not.
Your Honor.
It's not.
I don't understand that.
Well,
I got other
just a
children.
second.
I
Do you
got
want me-
5 other
do you
kids.
want me?
man.
Do you want me to
And
say
he's
it's
spoiled,
slower?
Your Honor.
And I say, what about the $3,500 that we put into it?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
But it wasn't $4,500. It was $3,500.
35. I'm sorry if you didn't hear me well.
Man.
You are absolutely entitled to that. I believe you are entitled to that. He put in 10. That's his truck.
I made, Your Honor, I worked all my life with that truck.
I don't care.
I worked all my.
I don't care. He's not going to spend his $10,000
I care.
on
I done made over $1 million
your
with the
truck.
truck.
That's ridiculous.
I want you to stop it.
Say, man. Hey, man. How can you tell me
Now,
to stop
are
on
we
something
going-
I worked blood, sweat, and tears on? He finna take.
I need a break.
That's the judgment. I'm not entertaining your counterclaim. That's the judgment of the
man.
court. You get title to the truck. You can retrieve it as soon as you change the registration of the truck. However, in order to do that, you have to give your parents the $3,500 that they put into the truck. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Good.
what about
We're
this
done.
dog?
We're
that
done.
we
This
paying
court is
for?
adjourned.
We're done.
We
I have
paying
a
for this
question,
dog.
Judge.
We're done.
It's over.
Okay.
We paying for this dog and we didn't, and he's not
over.
giving us nothing.
Let me explain something to you.
That's
The reason, let me explain something to you. The reason that I'm not hearing your counterclaim is because the two of you were disrespectful and didn't listen to me. Oh, yes, you did. That's it. We're done.
All right. My actions of my response to what she was saying is wasn't nothing being disrespectful towards her.
I'm very glad she ruled in my favor.
It was the initial, the thought of giving up my hard-earned possessions.
It was because I did try to work it out before we came to court, and they was like, no, we're not going to pay you nothing.
I never would have thought in a million years sue my parents, even though they, my parents were my butt. But that was just something you had to go through back then.
It saddens me. I'm in disbelief that my parents did that to me. I didn't think that they would do that.
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know his plans. I can't talk that.
If you do business with family, make sure you get contracts.
I sympathize with the plaintiff's position on this because modifications of contracts are supposed to be allowed when there's a change in circumstance. So it's not like he was attempting to change the contract every Friday or for no reason. He thought that it was going to be $4,000. It turned out to be $10,000 to fix the truck. And as such, he wanted a bargain for exchange. That's a lot more money than he initially intended. So that conversation makes sense to me, that conversation between his parents, that I know we had agreed to this, but now with this new new information. This is what I'm comfortable with. Is that okay?
I think so. I think that is a common sense interpretation of what happened.
For a truck that cost $60,000 20 years ago, to put in $10,000 to it is not nothing. That's a big investment.
It probably isn't worth more than that. And the condition that it was in before he had it repaired, their position was unreasonable because now they have a fixed truck
that their child paid for.
That their child paid for. And with the animus between them, it doesn't seem to me as if he's going to get any benefit from the bargain. So the modification of their original oral contract, which I think happens occasionally when circumstances change, as long as both parties agree. And I actually think that both the mother and the father said okay, and then something happened that I don't know about.
Yeah, don't want to know about.
And I don't want to know about it. But I think it's fair that he had possession of the truck since he paid the majority of it.